Okay, get this. What if we could, like, actually hit record on our memories? And I don't mean, like, just vague feelings and stuff, but crystal clear, like full-on sensory experiences.
But potential is, it's really pretty staggering.
Right. It's kind of blown my mind.
We're not just talking about, sharper memories, but the actual ability to record them, tweak them, maybe even completely erase them.
It's giving me chills just thinking about it. And the crazy thing is, it's not just science fiction anymore.
Oh, absolutely. It's closer than a lot of people realize. I mean, we're diving into some serious sources today. Everything from, like, memory prosthetics
To actually sharing memories like you would a file.
Exactly. And that's why we're doing this deep dive. It's crucial to understand both the possibilities, the incredible possibilities, but also, the ethical tightrope we're walking.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, let's take it back a step. Memory Tech 101. What's the state of the art right now?
Well, scientists are mapping the brain in ways they've never been able to before. They're figuring out how memories are formed, where they're stored.
And I think I read somewhere that they're actually developing memory prosthetics.
Right.
That's not just a sci-fi thing anymore.
No, not at all. It's not about boosting a memory. This is about actually replacing lost function.
Like, so for people with Alzheimer's, this could be huge.
Exactly. Imagine these devices could actually stimulate specific brain regions, help them retrieve memories that they thought were lost forever. It's early days, but the research is moving incredibly fast.
Wow. But hold on, we're not just talking about restoring memories, are we?
Yeah.
I mean, our sources mentioned memory suppression, even the potential to erase traumatic experiences altogether.
You're right.
That could be revolutionary for, like, PTSD treatment.
It really could, but here's where we hit that ethical wall. Memory, it forms the foundation of who we are. Changing it, even if it's for good reasons, raises some monumental questions.
Like, would you really want to wipe out painful memories? Even if you could, would you still be the same person?
Right.
That is deep. And I guess the big question is, how is any of this even possible? Are we talking about brain surgery or something even weirder?
That's where brain-computer interfaces come in. BCIs. Think of it as like a direct connection between your brain and a device.
Like a mind meld, but with tech.
Exactly.
I thought BCIs were for things like controlling robotic arms and stuff.
They are, and that's actually a really good parallel because researchers are now targeting brain regions that are associated with memory. They're trying to, trigger or suppress activity in those areas.
Wait, so let's get practical here for a second. What could this actually look like in our lives? One of our sources talks about wearable devices that record everything you experience.
Yeah, I read that one too.
Imagine, like, being able to relive an amazing vacation moment anytime you want.
That's just the start. Picture, like, accessing memories on demand, even sharing them with others. But what happens when we go beyond just replaying? What if we start editing?
Editing?
Yeah, like removing that embarrassing first date or enhancing, those moments of triumph. Where do we draw the line?
Whoa.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, we go from remembering life to, like, curating it.
Yeah.
And who gets to be the editor?
Exactly. And that raises some major concerns about control and manipulation. Could this be used for, advertising, propaganda, even coercion?
It's a bit of a dystopian nightmare, isn't it?
It is. You could end up in a world where memories become commodities, bought, sold, and altered for somebody else's gain.
Okay, my head is officially spinning. We've gone from, like, fuzzy brain science to a potential Black Mirror episode in, what, 10 minutes?
But that's the power of this technology. And the danger. We're not talking about, just upgrading our phones. We're talking about fundamentally changing what it means to be human.
So we've got the tech side, and we've got this whole ethical minefield. What about the impact on, like, our relationships?
Yeah.
I mean, our memories of each other, they're far from perfect, right?
Right.
We forget things, we misremember things.
Our memories they're colored by emotions, biases, even just, the passage of time.
So you're saying that forgetting some of the bad stuff is actually a good thing?
Well, think about it. If you could erase every annoying habit, every hurtful word, would you even have a real relationship anymore?
I see your point.
It allows for forgiveness, for growth, for adaptation.
I'm getting serious Black Mirror vibes here again.
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, think about someone who's struggling with the trauma of abuse.
Oh,
The ability to erase that pain, that could be truly liberating.
It's true. Or for people with degenerative diseases, memory prosthetics could be the difference between connection and isolation.
Right.
It's
It's a
complicated.
complex trade-off for
Yeah.
sure.
So even if we could technically do all of this, the question is, should we? And what happens to, like, truth if we're all editing our pasts?
That's the authenticity paradox. Our memories, they're stories, not objective recordings. So if we start rewriting those stories, can we even trust our own minds?
That's a good question.
And then what happens if we can share those altered memories? Empathy becomes possible, but so does misinformation and manipulation on a whole new level. The very definition of privacy could be upended.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Memory prosthetics, erasure, the ethics, the impact on
And
relationships.
then we're just getting started.
The rabbit hole goes even deeper.
Push deeper.
Because now I'm hearing whispers about a collective memory, a shared database of experiences,
Hmm.
like tapping into someone else's life. That's wild.
It's mind-blowing, and it raises maybe the biggest question of all. How much of ourselves are we willing to surrender to technology? I mean, memory tech could revolutionize our lives, but at what cost?
Okay, I think we need to pause here for a second. Let all this sink in, and we'll come back for part two. We're going to get even deeper into the future of memory, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.
So, welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about how this memory tech could impact our relationships, even like the whole concept of truth. But there's another layer to this, something even more mind-bending.
Okay, more mind-bending than, like, erasing memories and potentially messing with reality. I'm all ears.
Okay, so are you ready for this? We're talking about a collective memory, a massive database of shared experiences, and anyone could access it.
Wait, hold on. You're saying, like, we could tap into other people's memories, see the world through their eyes.
That's the idea. Imagine the empathy, the understanding we could gain. Imagine like experiencing life through the eyes of someone from a completely different culture or background or even time period.
Okay, that's both amazing and kind of scary at the same time. But wouldn't that, like, blur the lines between people? Would we even have a sense of self if we're constantly experiencing other people's memories?
Yeah, that's a really valid concern. A collective memory, it makes us ask some big questions about, identity and individuality. Where does the self end and the collective begin? It's a deep philosophical question that could actually redefine what it means to be human.
And what about privacy? Our memories are, I mean, they're some of the most personal, intimate things we have. Would we really be okay sharing those with the world?
Privacy, yeah, that's a huge issue here. If memories become like shareable commodities, who controls access? Could companies demand access? Governments? The potential for misuse, it's pretty staggering. We're talking about a whole new level of vulnerability.
Okay, so we've got potential manipulation, the blurring of identity, a privacy nightmare. Is there anything else we need to work about with this memory tech? Because I think my head's about to explode.
Well, there is another big one. What happens to truth, to reality, in a world where memories can be altered, fabricated, even implanted? We touched on this a bit earlier, but it goes even deeper with this whole shared memory thing.
Right, we talked about how editing our own memories could, like, warp our sense of reality. But now imagine accessing a collective memory that's been messed with or filled with, like, fake narratives. How would we even know what's real anymore?
It's a huge concern. I mean, our memories are already just interpretations of events, not perfect recordings.
Right.
Add in the potential for manipulation, and the whole foundation of shared reality starts to crumble. We could end up in a world where truth is completely subjective and trust becomes impossible.
This is heavy stuff. We're not just talking about tweaking memories here. We're talking about potentially, like, undermining society as we know it.
Yep.
Is there any way to navigate this without things going totally off the rails?
It's a big challenge, but I think there's hope. The key is to approach all of this with caution, awareness, and a deep understanding of the ethics involved. We need to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks and develop safeguards, guidelines, to ensure responsible development and use.
So it's not about, like, rejecting memory tech altogether, but
Yep.
about using it wisely, ethically.
Mm-hmm.
But who gets to decide what's ethical, and how do we even enforce those guidelines?
Those are really crucial questions, and honestly, there are no easy answers. It's going to require a collective effort. Scientists, policymakers, ethicists, the public, we all need to be involved. We need to foster a culture of critical thinking and informed decision-making around these technologies.
So education is key. People need to understand how this tech works, its potential impact, the choices we're facing. Otherwise, we're just like walking into the future blindfolded.
Exactly. We need to empower people to make informed choices about their own memories and to, advocate for responsible development and use of this technology. We can't just leave it to the tech companies and governments to figure this out.
This all sounds incredibly complex and a little overwhelming, to be honest.
It is. It is. But don't underestimate the power of individual action. Even small steps can make a difference. Like, think about the data we share online with tech companies. Our digital footprints are becoming extensions of our memories. We need to be careful about protecting them.
That's a good point. We're already living in a world where our online activity is being tracked and analyzed. It's not a huge leap to imagine that data being used to influence or manipulate our memories in the future.
Exactly. So being aware of our digital footprint and taking steps to protect our privacy, that's crucial. And we can also choose to support companies that are, prioritizing ethical considerations in their development of memory tech. Vote with your wallet, so to speak.
Okay, so it's a multi-pronged approach. Education, advocacy, personal responsibility, conscious consumer choices. It's a lot to juggle, but it feels good to know that we're not just passive bystanders in all of this.
Exactly. The future of memory isn't, set in stone. It's being shaped right now, and we all have a role to play in making sure it's a good one.
I'm feeling a lot more hopeful now than I did at the beginning of this conversation. It's still a little mind-blowing to think about where this technology could lead, but at least we're not just sleepwalking into the future.
That's the spirit. I mean, we have a choice. Do we want to be the architects of our own memories, of our collective future, or do we want to be, passive subjects of someone else's design? I know what side I'm on.
Me too. This has been an incredible deep dive, and I feel like we've only scratched the surface. But it's definitely given me a lot to think about, and hopefully it's done the same for our listeners.
I hope so too. This stuff it's too important to leave to chance. It's time to get informed, get engaged, and start shaping the future we want remember.
So, welcome back to the show. We've been on quite a journey exploring the future of memory. It's pretty amazing and honestly a little bit scary.
It really is a paradox. I mean, think about it. This technology could help heal trauma, could help us understand each other better, even connect us in ways we can't even imagine right now. But it also brings up these huge ethical questions about, privacy, who we are, and what's even real.
Right. It's a lot to unpack. So, after looking at all of this, all these possibilities, where do we even begin to wrap our heads around it all? What can we actually do to make sure this technology is used for good?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think it starts with maybe a change in how we think about it. We need to get past the fear and the hype and really start thinking critically about the choices we're facing.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the wow factor, but we can't just sit back and let this technology decide our future. We need to be part of the conversation.
Exactly. And that starts with understanding that memory technology isn't just one thing. It's a whole range of tools and techniques, and each one has its own, benefits and risks.
So instead of asking, is memory technology good or bad? We should be asking, how can we use this specific memory technology responsibly?
Exactly. Like, for example, memory prosthetics. Those could be incredible for folks with Alzheimer's or brain injuries, but we need to be really careful about the ethics of putting devices in people's brains and make sure they're used responsibly and that people understand what they're getting into.
And what about erasing memories? We talked about how that could help people with trauma, but it could also mean erasing parts of who we are and maybe even messing with our sense of self.
Right. It all comes down to the details in the situation. If someone's dealing with really bad PTSD, being able to erase a specific traumatic memory, that could be life-changing. But we need really clear rules and safeguards to make sure it's not misused. And people need to know what the potential consequences are.
So it seems like being open and honest is really important here, both from the companies who are making these technologies and the people who choose to use them.
Absolutely. We need to be having open and honest conversations about the good and the bad. The potential for things to go wrong and what it could mean in the long run. And we need to give people the power to make informed choices about their own memories.
So it's not just about regulating the tech, but it's about creating a culture where people are thinking about these things, being responsible, and making ethical decisions.
Exactly. We need to move past this idea that technology is something that just happens to us. We can and should be a part of shaping how it develops and how it's used.
You know, this is all really complicated, but it's also, in a way, empowering. We're not just along for the ride. We can actually have a say in where things go.
That's the cool part. The future of memory isn't already written, it's something we're creating right now, together, through the choices we make.
So if we had to sum it all up, what are the most important things for our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is don't be afraid of the future of memory. Engage with it. Think critically about it. Be a part of the conversation.
Stay informed, ask questions, talk about these technologies and what they could mean.
Right. Be mindful of the information you share, the companies you support, and the choices you make about your own memories.
And we need to remember that technology is, at the end of the day, a tool. It can be used for good or bad. It's up to us to decide which way it goes.
In the end, the future of memory is going to be a reflection of our values, what we choose, and how we see the future of humanity.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've explored so much. Science, ethics, even philosophy. And it feels like we're just getting started.
I think we've planted some important seeds, though. We've got people curious, we've started conversations, and hopefully we've given our listeners the tools to think critically about the future of memory.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave you with this.
hmm
The future isn't something that just happens. It's something we create.
And that includes the future of memory. It's a future we can choose to shape with wisdom, compassion, and a commitment to being human together.
Thank you so much for joining us on this amazing journey. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep talking about it.